Today's top trender, TPP trauma. It will be NAFTA on steroids.
Members of Congress aren't supposed to tell anyone what they've read.
All negotiations have been held behind closed doors.
Oh, this is extraordinary secrecy.
American jobs have a new threat.
What about the freedom of people to associate or to join unions? That's not going to be in this.
This is not about union labor. This is about American labor. Joining me tonight, Congressman Dan Kildee of Michigan. Congressman, good to have you with us tonight. I know that you're on record against the TPP, but this tweet caught my attention today. CBS Network radio reporter Mark Knoller tweeted out from the White House today. That's his beat. He says that the White House says the TPP is, quote, critical for creating jobs, promoting growth, providing opportunity for American workers, and promoting fair trade in Asia and Pacific. Now, if that is where the White House stands and if that's where the president is, don't you think the country needs a little bit of definition of where all these jobs are going to come from?
I think you're right. I mean, I've lived through this. I come Flint, Michigan, and I remember the North American Free Trade Agreement. The same promises of job growth, economic growth, and everything was going to work out just fine for Flint and Saginaw and Bay City. We had 50,000 General Motors jobs back then. Today we've got 10,000. Thank God we do have the auto industry being going through recovery now, but we cannot afford another one of these agreements that puts American jobs up against countries that have no environmental standards, no labor standards, no unions. This is not going to work out for us, and it's just, particularly with Japan entering TPP, this is just not the direction that we should be going in this country.
Today, General Motors announced that it's planned to pump in $600 million into the Flint, Michigan assembly plant. I mean, this is good news.
It is good news. I was there when they made the announcement, and the workers earned that big investment.
Well, this backing is part of a $1.27 billion investment across 5 factories across America. And, of course, GM has really taken a huge step forward here. A lot of people gave up on the industry. How does this Trans-Pacific Partnership jeopardize the jobs this investment is going to create? And I think we got to get right to it. Here's GM doing their part. Here's the expansion in these communities, and yet we're on the verge of having another trade agreement that could re-gut the industry that we saw have troubles on NAFTA.
Well, TPP would be bad for the auto industry. We need to have a consistent industrial policy if we're going to support the American auto industry, as it looks like we have recently. And I give the president all the credit for stepping up. We've got to be consistent. We can't have Japan, for example, one of the largest markets for autos, 5 million a year, only 5% of their sales are imports. In typical industrialized nations, that's going to be 40%. So we can't be in a position where our workers have to compete against countries that don't have good labor standards, or in the case of Japan, manipulate their currency or use non-trade barriers to keep our vehicles out. Meanwhile, they want to bring more vehicles in. It's just not going to work out. I'm all for free and fair trade, but so far, Ed, none of these agreements have ever actually passed the test. They may work in theory, but in practice, we lose jobs.
Well, the president has executive authority over the trade negotiators. These negotiations have been held in great secrecy. There's only a few people that know the details of this. Why? Why is it coming down like this?
Well, I mean, this is the way these agreements have come, so that when they come to us, it's a yes or no question. And look, I'm a policymaker. We should have our hands in the policies that the United States puts forth, and that includes industrial policy.
Yeah.
So I just don't think there's any way that I can look the other way on this. And even I'm a supporter and a fan of the president's. We disagree on a few things. This is one of them. I think this is the wrong direction for our country.
I'm just anxious to hear the explanation from somebody on the economic team that can explain this. Tell us where the upside is.
I tell you, here's the thing. Folks need to talk to the people in Flint, in Bay City, in Saginaw. We've been through this before, and we've heard the arguments. And, you know, sort of in theory, the arguments make sense. But in practice, it never seems to work out. It never seems to translate to jobs for the people that I represent, because we're going in trying to get into markets where those markets just don't want to import. They don't want to see American imports come in, and they do everything they can to keep it from happening. These free trade agreements just don't work for us.
Congressman Dan Kildee, good to have you with us tonight. Congratulations to Flint, Michigan. It's great news, no doubt about it.
Our workers earned it. Thank you, Ed.
You bet. Coming up.